she's like, you know what, I don't need to put up with this. She said, pack your shit up and get out. You got 48 hours.
Welcome to the CEO Stylist Podcast, where two unlikely CEOs come together and rewrite the narrative of what it means to be a CEO stylist. Yovanka and Kirsten Harris are on a mission, giving stylists permission to join the movement of artists breaking the mold of what is meant to be for the hair industry and creating the life and schedule of their dreams. Fast forward through many failed attempts and lessons learned in the process, it's time to level up the playing field. It's time to call BS on what's been done before. Yovanka and Kirsten are ready to share it all, defying the odds of the industry and teaching you how to do the same.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the CEO Stylist. I'm Yovanka and I'm here with my beautiful co-host Kirsten.
Hello, I feel like I'm in interview mode here.
Interview mode, and I feel like I haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
I know, it's been an interesting 2 weeks, hey?
It has. We kind of get busy and we kind of get lost in the thick of things, and we're back in our studio, which is super exciting. We've had a few little audio issues, so hopefully we've got 2 new microphones, we've got this beautiful space, beautiful lighting.
I know, it feels like it's had a glow up in the holidays.
We've got a glow up, and our topic is not really a glow up today. I'm like, such, you're sweating?
Sweating already.
I'm sweating. We're going to bare our soul today. Well, you're going to bare your soul because it's your story time.
That's it, which doesn't often happen that I'll, be in super vulnerable mode. And I've got a dog on my lap too, which is kind of interesting.
Maxie.
It's like
He's your bestie.
He's my bestie.
He's your bestie. But today's topic, we wanted to speak about, business hardships and the precious gifts that we receive from them. I know it's not always, easy to speak about, like you say, being vulnerable, but I think it's really important for people to know what we do in situations when things don't go right in business, or you get hurt, or you get betrayed in business. So this is your time to take a trip down memory lane.
And I think we all do. I think we all take cues from other people's stories, good, bad, indifferent, and going, and it's that relatable story as well to go, I'm not the only one out there that's gone through situations and
100%.
hardships. So, and we always talk, like, I know I've talked flippantly about mistakes being made in business along the way. And this story in particular is definitely not a mistake. It was a huge learning curve, if anything. But I thought, even at my age and being in business for a long time, I thought that I had it together.
Covered.
I really did. So this took me by surprise.
As they say, life keeps throwing you curveballs.
Yep.
It's not supposed to feel like you're not supposed to have chaos.
No.
And you're not supposed to welcome it, because sometimes the biggest lessons come from it.
Absolutely. And in this case, it has absolutely been the greatest gift. So
just not in that time, not in the time that's
what I want to say. Like, I'm gonna start with the end first and say it has absolutely been the best thing that's happened to me. But when you're going through it, I'm sure our listeners will relate to this. You go, fuck, why me? Like, why now? What have I done?
How did this happen?
The taps on the shoulder by the universe, people in your court saying along the way, be careful. You're like, no, people just, people are good. Surely this wouldn't happen. Anyway, should we get to it?
Let's get to it.
How do we unpack
So
this
you
one?
said, what did you say? You're going to start from the back?
So I started with the end in mind, saying, well, the end of the story is it's been the best thing that's happened to me.
Sure.
So I've already said that.
And the beginning of the story.
Oh, okay.
I know. We're going to keep this. We're going to try to keep this in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I've got my timer on.
It's a lot to unpack. All right. Where should we start?
So because it's like, it was 8 years in the making, and it really started my early days in my business. And, I had multiple salons, franchise, company owned, staff everywhere. And, I knew that there was a shortage of people in the industry and had heard about sponsorship. And I always thought, I will sponsor someone for the right reasons. Like, it's got to be for the right reasons. So that person came into my life when least expect it, had a terrible story, terrible situation back in his hometown. And I thought, he's the one that I'm going to give a gift and be able to have a better life in this country. So we went along, did that. And, I think anyone that's been in a position as a business owner to do sponsorship will get where I'm coming from. I don't think people really fully understand
How
what it
hard it
takes.
is.
It is hard. Like, it's what you have to do to be in a position to be able to do it financially.
I was
your
going to say, do you
business.
have to put up like
You
financial
have to put up
resources?
money, but you have to provide financial documents as well.
It's kind of guarantee. You kind of guarantee.
You are absolutely guaranteeing this person. So back then, this was what was called the old 457 visa. So did that. It got approved. Like, it was a big process, and there's a timeline. So I can appreciate for people that, you know, are waiting to get approved in the country, like, they're on a ticking timeline as well, because they've only got a period of time that they can stay here before they have to make a decision. So anyway, that happened. We got sponsorship, and he was an employee, and, you know, through the different paces of the business back then, and he survived it, and, you know, was a great staff member. And years went on, and he, you know, was Sydney based and moved between a couple of salons. And then as I was transitioning to, you know, I guess have a different pathway for my professional life, we were downsizing one of the salons in Sydney. And so with that, it was, at the time, we were doing a sponsorship for, well, he had got to the end of his first 5-year period as a visa, and now it was either he had to go back home or we had to apply for permanent residency, which is a whole nother process again, because, you know, 5 years have gone by, and then you've got to do a whole PR application. So we had that going, and that's like double the amount of money, and there's a lot more documentation involved, and you've got to put in applications and all of that.
And this is also something that the business pays for it?
Yeah, like in this case, whether it's right or wrong, absolutely he needed to put in for that as well. So it was you know...
So it's kind of like a joint...
Technically, they say you shouldn't do that, but it's it's about a $12,000 to $14,000 process.
Wow.
Like the
so
second
you both
time.
put in?
Yeah. So there was legal fees, and there was also... But, you know, he put in the majority of that. And the agreement is, once they get their PR, of course, they're able to stay in the country. So meanwhile, we were making plans with the business, and we'd always loosely talked about what would happen at the end of that. There would be a partnership. But essentially what was happening was this business that he was part of was, I was funding him to be in a job. And so, you know, and there was many occasions where I wouldn't pay myself to make sure that
he was getting paid.
He was getting
And
paid,
the business.
irrespective of what was happening, the outcomes in the salon at the time, whether he was sick or on holidays or, you know, didn't hit KPIs.
Any business owner can relate to that.
Yeah, right? So it's always about people first. So that was going on. And then in amongst all of that, of course, we had COVID, and there's a period of time where hairdressers weren't allowed to work in Sydney in particular. And there was a situation that I found out about where, you know, he was getting government benefits for being an employee, and to find out through a major supplier that he was doing hair on the side and actually charging salon rates. So that
and
kind
potentially also did you find out, was he taking colour as well?
Well, I don't know. I don't know for sure where it was coming from, but...
because the shop, well, it wouldn't have been open, right? He wouldn't have been able to...
No. So salons were closed down for a period of time, and, you know, I found out through the head of that business that, oh, no, you know, he's been coming to my house and doing my hair. I was pulled up at a party. This is how it all came to a head.
I remember that.
Pulled up at a party, and
loosely just warning you.
She warned me and said, I think you've got to be careful. And I went, what do you mean? Like, I've sponsored him, we're doing PR.
And you still didn't want to see it.
I didn't want to see it. And along the way, many of my friends, and maybe some that would be listening to this would be nodding their head saying yes, like my husband, many of my hairdresser friends interstate that had met him along the way as well, were saying, I think you need to be careful
something not
here.
right. Yep.
But I just had that loyalty, I don't know, maybe call it like a parental loyalty as well, to go, this was my commitment, I need to see this out. Anyway, so I got that tap on the shoulder at the party, and I thought, you know, in the back of my mind, there's no way that... And she just said...
And you still didn't question... You didn't question
it.
him? No.
Then we had to close the salon and go to a wedding for a franchisee of which he got to go to as well, which is close
Paid
to
by you?
Somerset. I paid for it, sitting there by the pool, and then I find out he's having interviews with other companies to do education. I thought, well, this is really interesting
Before
where this
had
is
he
all going.
even spoken to you?
Yeah, and then no sooner had we got back, and I think I've got my timelines almost
Could be.
correct. No sooner had we got back, his PR was approved. And I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. So it got approved on a Friday, I remember this. And on the Monday, he starts talking about going. I thought, interesting.
So he starts talking about going to who?
Going, leaving,
Okay.
resigning.
To
And-
who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is really interesting. Where did this come from? And he said, oh, it's only just come to me over the weekend. I'm like, no, it hasn't. You've clearly had this planned. Like, and then of course,
Everything
the
you
taps
put
on the
two and
shoulder,
two.
what
Yep.
I'd been told at that party, finding out that other interviews were happening. I thought, yeah, no, there's more. This is absolutely a plan. You've just been holding out. Meanwhile, then we had another loose arrangement, uncontracted more for me, with the landlord of the salon that we were sharing space in. And she started making moves around putting my rent up. And essentially, like, just to put this in perspective, I was literally paying for a salon for one person at that point. And because this is how he wanted it to go. And anyway, so I'm getting this phone call. She wants to put my rent up something ridiculous, like 400%.
Knowing that you wouldn't be able to sustain it.
Yeah. And I went, well, that's outrageous. I would go and rent another salon, and that's not where he wants to be at this point. And she's like, you know what, I don't need to put up with this. She said, pack your shit up and get out. You got 48 hours.
Wow.
So with that, then I get a resignation. And I thought they've
And then how did you get, because he didn't call you to give you the
No,
resignation?
he didn't call me. So this argy-bargy was going on, and she's like, pack your shit up, you've got 48 hours. And then
Because you went in contract
he
with...
came in with this, oh my God, I'm so worried about my future. And like any good leader has plan B, right? And I had plan B sorted within a couple of hours. Went, this is amazing.
And your plan B was amazing.
It was such a great opportunity. And that was my commitment there. Never, even in that moment, never
Did you
did
want
I
to throw
think
the towel in?
what this was about to, although in my gut I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Anyway, plan B, and then this phone call, things don't feel, I'm really worried. I'm like, you don't need to be worried, you just keep doing your job and let me figure out the logistics of this, but we are not staying there. I will not give another cent to someone that can be so ruthless in business. That a person of her word at the beginning, and to
That's
answer
right,
any
because she
questions
was-
about why wasn't there a contract in place, because it was like, this person was, I'm a person of my word, I've been in this community for 45 years, I would never cross someone, you ask any, that kind of
For
tone.
sure.
So it almost like guilt you into thinking that you're an asshole for asking for something in writing, because they would never cross you. It's all bullshit. Don't ever believe people when they say that. So anyway, because it was a public holiday in Adelaide, and I didn't answer my phone because I was at gym, and next minute, after more than 8 years of employment, I get an email resignation effective immediately. And I phoned him and said, where is this going? And he said, I don't know what I'm doing. So still went with that tone. And I'm like,
So he wasn't telling you up
wasn't
front.
telling me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know exactly,
What's happening?
this is just ridiculous. So
So the
turns
two
out,
were conspiring.
100%. That's exactly the outcome was they worked together to push me out of the business, but he kept the business. He essentially stole it from me. So I, like, in that moment when I worked it out, I went, fuck, like, I'm the odd one out here. I've paid for this business
And
for
this-
more than a decade.
This is also like a completely separate topic, but I remember the tone of his thoughts were, these are my clients.
Yeah, that's right.
That was what he was thinking.
And any business owner who has had a situation like this occur, where a staff member builds up a client list and they leave, I have absolutely no problem with that at all.
100%.
And that's what in the height of, because it was a very heated conversation, I was like hurt, angry, betrayed, and I said, I'd have more respect for you if you said to me you were setting up in a completely different suburb.
area. Yeah.
But what's happened is you've removed me
Out of my own business.
and you think there's nothing wrong with the fact that you've essentially stolen a whole business. So I was distraught. Plus, like financially, it impacted my family, but also it could have impacted the other part of my business because I had to fight. There was a point in time, and I won't go into detail, that I had to fight really hard to keep that arrangement in place as well. Really hard. Like, there was a moment in time where I'm being told he needs to go back. Like,
and I remember you could have easily pulled the pin, but you were like, I
pulled the
can't
pin,
do that to
had
him.
him deported, but I'm like, I have to do whatever and so that I think that's where it hurt a lot as well. Like it really, I thought,
it's like a dagger to your heart.
Even now talking about it, I'm like, you can probably see my expression.
It does. It brings up so much emotion.
So anyway, I'm in a world of pain. I've got a business. I've got commitments to another franchise.
Plus, you've got so much shit there that you have to essentially, would have to go leave Adelaide to go pack up what you have there.
And I didn't want to, imagine walking into that space knowing that they've conspired to remove me from
and then
it.
still playing like not the victim, but playing I don't know what I'm doing, still not giving you the respect.
That's it.
To all the balls to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm so sorry. It was more, there was like layer upon layer
So all the stuff from that salon got literally thrown into boxes. I'm sure there were lids, there was open lids and all sorts of stuff thrown in, no respect, just shipped back at my expense, of course. And never spoken another word to that person, you sit in that pain and go, well, what now?
Well, that's the next big question.
What now? And that was for me, because I was, I guess, edging closer towards wanting a different pathway in that moment. When you're in that moment of pain and it's like, I can't see a way forward. And my husband knew, he was the one for years saying, do not trust this person. I do not trust this situation. Why do you go out of your way? Like a lot of people had at that point. Anyway, and he could see how much pain I was in. And he decided to organise a psychic reading for me. So I had that. He just said, you need to show up. And this person, I've been to see this psychic before, and I went to her house, which I'd never been to before, and she said, oh, Kirsten, I can see that you're in so much pain. And she said, and I didn't tell her the story. She told me the story, right, to validate what she had already worked out. And she said, oh, this person's been stealing from you for a long time. You've seen it, though.
You just didn't want to see it.
You just chose to ignore it. And I'm just looking at her and not saying anything. She said, no, you know this. She said, you're smart. You know that this has been happening for a long time. Anyway, and with that, she said, this is your greatest gift. What's happened to you is your greatest. I thought she was being loopy. I'm like looking at her, crying my eyes out, going, Alice, I think you've got this wrong. She said, no, I don't. I don't have this wrong.
She was so clear.
This is your greatest gift. What's about to unfold for you in your professional path, you do not know. So you do not know. She said, but you're going to know in months to come.
You'll figure it out. You'll look back and then you're going to thank this. Yeah. You're going to thank the situation and the person.
So I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I needed to energetically make a change. And so it obviously made me feel good to go, I know that there's a light at the end. I'm not feeling it though.
But I'm going to figure it out.
Probably the psychic reading was the validation that I needed, that, this is a really shitty, and just move towards it. In that though, I've got to share this with you. I have, but I'm going to share it for our listeners. She did say, oh, you're going to have another salon again. And I'm like, oh, Alice, you are so off. I am not ever going to own a salon again. She said, no, hear me out. She said, it's this beautiful space, absolutely beautiful space. This house with these windows, round windows, and they're black, and there's a salon at the front and there's offices at the back. And she said microphones and a stage, and you're going to be with someone else. And I'm like listening to her.
Yeah, like what? How off can you be?
I'm not going to own another salon. Like this is
not going to happen.
And no. She said you're going to be in partnership. This is what's happening, and.
Fast forward.
Well, you hadn't even done your renovations, but it was only more recently. I think
we have mentioned.
Have we mentioned it before?
You have.
Okay, see, I'm tired.
No, you have.
Repeating myself.
But it's good to because even we ponder on it and we're like, oh my God, this is what she was talking about.
So and sitting there going, oh my God, she's talking about your new space, this podcast room with the microphones.
What we're doing as a partnership.
She just crossed her paths in terms of, I have no ownership over your salon. That's your salon. I just show up. I'm a very loyal client. You have your office at the back, but it was just sitting there. So that was funny.
She called her.
Yeah, she called her. But the greatest gift was that I didn't know, that I absolutely know. And I'm going to thank, if this person ever listens to this podcast, thank you so much, because you did me the biggest favor. I fucking love my life.
Of course.
Like, I needed to sit in that pain point to, you know, they say you got to hit rock bottom before you can come back up. So I definitely hit it. And, you know, that professional career, and I've been in that position before where I've had a complete career change that came out of like a semi-crisis situation. They're probably the best moves, right?
You just come back stronger and stronger.
Come back stronger. So, and what I knew, I wanted a business where I knew every part of it. And that was the biggest issue that I had, because I'm not a hairdresser by trade. I could not step in and do hair in the event that someone was away, you know, or sick or whatever else
But
happened.
there's so much that you do behind the scenes that actually, and this is part of when stylists say, oh, they're my clients. I don't think staff will ever realise until they're the ones cutting the checks, or they're the ones that are, you know, are building that business behind the scenes and putting in so much money into marketing to get those clients.
So the irony is, now that I own a marketing, I've opened.
The irony is, that's right, and you're doing what you were doing on that scale, but for so many people that you align with.
Yeah. So now I'm dealing with so many different salon owners, hair, beauty, body, aesthetics, and listening to, primarily a lot of them come to me when they're looking to build their business anyway, and sometimes it can be out of distress, or they've lost a staff member, or they've all got a story of sorts, you know, or they just want to grow. They've taken on a new product like hair extension, they want to grow it. But the irony of now being in a position where I'm helping them grow their client base as well, you know, that's the most basic fundamental of the business, which is so cool. But I freaking love what I do. And I love the fact, what I love even more is the fact, and call me a control freak, is that I know every part of my business. So there's no weakness now.
And do you think that was your greatest lesson?
That was one of my greatest lessons, yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to do everything, but I do believe
you have to know the aspects
of it. You do need to know it, and that was
you
really,
can't be so far out that, you know, you're giving someone the control, like you're saying, where they're I guess second guessing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in hairdressing they don't realise the back end. Not everyone can do what they do. They're the artists, they do what they do, but the backbone of the business is what you do.
That's it.
So I think everyone's going to learn their own lesson with that. But I just want to say, as someone someone that was on the stand, like on the sidelines watching this, I just want to really applaud you, because you really, really did. Like, it really showed me who you are as a person. And I think this is the thing when it happens. We always say, don't be bitter, be better.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because how many times people get hurt, and what's the first thing that they do? That they, you know, want the person, they lash out, or they
wish them dead, or
wish them dead, or exactly. It's so true. I've heard people say that. And I feel like everything that you say reflects back on you.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm not going to lie. My husband was definitely having conversations. Of
course, he was. He was a guy that was like, let me out.
I'm on a plane. So,
of course.
And still, you know, he gets very heated about it. I never had that.
No,
I never had that. And thank you for
But
that
it did.
feedback.
It showed me who, I think the lesson in this, I think when shit like this happens and when you're in it allows you to show who your true character is. Do you know what I mean? Even in the thick of it, you weren't thinking that you were going to retaliate, or that you were just trying to figure out what you were going to do for you and how you were going to, you know, overcome it.
And that's actually the hard, because I really didn't know. I knew my skill set.
But you also question.
No,
Remember,
I question everything.
You question yourself. You lost your confidence, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, I don't think you realize just how, you know. And I think that's a testament. You saw how many people came to your defense. You had the best of the best, and you've got such an amazing circle of super powerful, superhuman business owners. Even in Sydney, you know, you had people, you know, wanting to drive down to go collect the stuff. Like, people were coming to your defense, even though you had to cop a little bit of shit, like I told you so. Because that's the last thing that you want to hear when it happens, right?
Deserved though.
Deserved.
Because people were trying to really.
But I think also
out.
that's where you can block people out,
Yeah.
because in that time you just want people to hold that space for you.
And I do like being at that party, and you were at that party with me, and that person pulled me aside and went, I think you need to be really careful about this situation. And I also now thank that person, because that was kind of like the eye opener to go, I don't think this is going to work well for you. This is not going to end well. Just be really careful. So, and she didn't want to get involved at all, but
No, but she still told you. And you know what? The reality is, look, at the end of the day, Karma knows your address.
Karma knows your address.
Karma knows your address.
Fuck, it knows mine.
I think Alice did say that he was going to come back one day, right?
She did say something
did
crazy
say?
like that.
She did. And how do you feel about how would you feel? Let's open this door to someone that's wronged you, someone that's deceived, and it's not like you said. I think it was the level of coldness that this person did it. Because we can forgive a lot of people, but it's also the way when shit happens, it's how it happens and how you're able to recover.
Yeah.
So if this person was, going to come back and apologize, where would that sit with you?
I'd accept the apology. If this person came back and asked if I could help them in their business, no fucking way.
Yeah.
I'm selective as to who I take on in my business, which is such a fortunate position to be in. But forgiveness is, sets
For
everyone
you.
free,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it's for you.
Yeah.
100%.
So that is honestly every day I wake up and I'm so grateful for this life, and I've worked really hard to be able to rebuild my skill set in an area which I absolutely love. I did need to go back and educate myself again and brush up on skills, and
That
it's
never
amazing.
stops.
Like I love what I do every day.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Do you want to maybe leave what your biggest takeaway is? Like, what if someone else has gone through what you've gone through?
So I really think my biggest lesson was believe in yourself. I know that sounds a bit fluffy and people read that in memes, but it truly, truly back yourself.
What about a bigger one? Can I say maybe a bigger one?
Go.
That you always say that I think... What do you say? Listen to your...
Oh, listen to your gut. Oh, and that goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Back yourself, listen to your gut.
Because your head knew, but your gut...
Yeah.
Well, your head was... Your gut knew, but your head was telling
My gut knew that this was not right for a long time. My head was like, no one would do something like that. Surely not.
But
not
your
after
gut...
everything you've done for them, they wouldn't cross you.
Yeah.
So definitely. But be your own champion. Absolutely. And if it doesn't feel right, go and explore what it is.
That's right.
That you need to do to figure it out. So
amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy days.
Happy days. Thank you to anyone who's ever fucked me over. That's what we need to say, right?
Oh yeah. Did that feel good?
That felt good. Did it feel good to get it off your chest?
Thank you.
I was like, you need to share this story.
You're such a great co-host. Thank you.
Thank you. I always wanted to be Oprah and ask questions. All right. Thank you so much, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.